The first matchup in the West region brings us Florida, the number 1 seed, against Norfolk State, the number 16 seed. And from what I've seen from Norfolk State, just eye test wise, not even looking at any numbers, this team is pretty terrible, to be honest. I think they're not in a very good league, but this isn't a team that Florida should be worried about. I don't think, even if they do overlook them a little bit, which they may be, but I think that program, they don't really do that a whole lot, but just subconsciously, I think it's nature to do that a little bit, but I don't really think it matters. I mean, this Norfolk State team is horrific, and quite honestly, it's a horrific matchup for them.
Yeah, I mean, Norfolk's an interesting team. I mean, there's some talent on this roster, and there's like some athleticism, at least in the backcourt. Like guys like Christian Ings, and who made he made like 2 SportsCenter number 1 plays. I think at one point in one game, so it was pretty impressive. Like those 2 dunks, that windmill dunk that he had, and other guys like Brian Moore are fairly talented backcourt pieces, but the overall problem in this game is they're tiny. They're just not a big team at all, and they're very bad on the glass. They're 335th nationally in defensive rebound rate, and that's playing in the MEAC. So, I mean, it's a fairly good offensive rebounding league. Like a lot of teams really value getting on the offensive glass, but you're playing one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the entire country, and arguably the best and deepest front court in the entire country in Florida. And this Florida team they're built to beat the crap out of teams like this. Like basically every team they played in non-conference, they beat by 25 plus. They had a couple 40, 45 point wins in league play, and Norfolk rates around the same that those teams rated. So, I mean, they're sitting at 195 in Torvik right now. Not really I wouldn't say like a super weak 16 seed, but overall it's really hard to play up against a team that has so much more size than you, and they just have the edge at every single position. And Florida likes to play fast, and they could break away pretty easily. The only path I guess for Norfolk would be deploying the zone. They like to throw some zone out there, and maybe you can slow down this Florida team a little bit. You make them more perimeter centric early. They miss a bunch of threes, and Norfolk's able to get out and transition a little bit and score and potentially put a scare in. But I'm not going to endorse a Norfolk State win or even a cover, because I do think Florida's just built to beat these teams by significant margin, and that's what I would expect here too.
Yeah, no, definitely. A couple of other things about this matchup regarding the 3-point line in particular. Florida, they're top 75 in the country in offensive 3-point rate. Then you look at Norfolk State, they're 298th in defensive 3-point rate. So they're willing to give up the 3 ball. Florida, can get hot, and they want to shoot the 3. And then on the offensive side, Norfolk is quite literally in the bottom 5 in the country in offensive 3-point rate. They love to live at the rim. Their close to percentage is 48.1. So they're living at the rim. And Florida, of course, is very good defensively at the rim. As you mentioned, their front court depth is very, very deep. So I think Norfolk State, already not a very good team. They're going to really struggle to score in this game. They're going to struggle on the glass big time. I envision Florida putting up, 20, 25 offensive rebounds. We've seen that with Florida already this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game they had 25 offensive rebounds and maybe 30, 35 second chance points. I don't know. I think the standard is typically 1 point per, offensive rebound. But, I wouldn't be surprised if, with how bad Norfolk State is on the glass, if Florida puts up more than that in second chance points.
Yeah, and especially if they play that zone almost exclusively, which I kind of expect to happen. I mean, Florida, they rate in the 19th percentile against zone on a points per possession basis. And I mean, they've only had 84 possessions against zone all season long. So not really a big sample size, but I do think that's something Norfolk's going to throw out there. They're in the 95th percentile in zone frequency on the defensive end. So maybe it stumps them. I don't really expect it to, because obviously it's really hard to rebound out of a zone. And I mean, Norfolk's, I mean, even if they play man, they're most likely going to get killed on the glass. So I think just trying to muck this game up a little bit, try to lower the possession count at least, and make this team more perimeter centric would be the way to go. But yeah, like you said, Norfolk trying to live at the rim, and they don't really take threes. They don't have a lot of shooting talent either. So that spells trouble against Florida, who's an elite rim defense. So yeah, I don't really see a ton of paths here.
Yeah, I think Florida has this game already in hand by the under 16 timeout. That's my prediction. I think this thing's already over, 10-point game by the under 16, and you know, Norfolk State's already starting to pack it in. But I guess you never know.
I'll say it takes them. I say it takes them 5 minutes to figure it out. I think it's gonna take them a little bit to figure out the zone that I think they're gonna throw out there, and maybe it's even tied. I'll go complete opposite. I think we're sitting tied at the under 16, and then or Tall Golden calls a timeout right before the under 16 with Norfolk up 2, and he just lights into his team, and then they go on a massive run, and they go on like a 20-25 overrun. That's how I think this game ends up.
All right. Well, nonetheless, should be a Florida comfortable win. Like you said, expect them to cover the spread and move on to the second round, play the winner of UConn and Oklahoma.